welcome to Tech Tool India. In this video, I'm going to explain you about Laravel migration. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe our channel, Tech Tool India. Without wasting any time, let's get started. In this video, I'm going to explain you about Laravel migration basics, how we can run the migration and roll back it, add or update any column in the table, add a column modifier, creating database indexes, and creating the foreign key constraints. The very first thing is about the Laravel migration. So what is migration? Basically, migration is kind of version control of the database. Generally what we do, we generally write the query into MySQL and create a table and manage those things. But Laravel provides a migration which is kind of manage a version of your database schema. Whenever you have to create a table, you write a migration. You need to modify some column, you need to write a migration. By writing the migration, you are able to manage the versioning of the database. So let's see how we can generate a basic migration and the structure of that migration. So for this, you need to install Laravel 9. If you want to know how we can install this, I have put a link in the description. You can go and watch there. Assuming that you have installed a Laravel 9, if you go to this database folder, there is a folder called migrations. This folder actually consists of all the migration files in our application. And this is the database schema which has this default table if you have installed Laravel auth package. Let's say I want to create a contact table. So what I can do, I can write a command php artisan make migration, and while giving a name to the migration, Laravel actually detects the name of the table and the column in the name of the migration. If I want to create a table, what I will write, create underscore contacts, whatever the table name will be, and then underscore table. So what it does, it actually create contact table.php file in our migration folder like this. You see this has been appended by the current timestamp. So it actually creates a file in the database migration folder, and in that folder we got the migration structure. So migration structure consists of two functions. One is up and second is down. Inside the up function, whatever is there, it runs when you run the migration, and inside the down function, whatever is written, it actually runs when you roll back this. This is a schema facade which accepts the name of the table, and this is the blueprint of the table. Database table consists of the columns. So each column have a different data type. So to understand about that, we can look into the Laravel migration available column types. To see the available column types, we need to go into the Laravel documentation, and we can see these are the type of column which is available, which we can use. Table of ID. That ID is basically, it's a kind of column type which is primary key, which is auto increment. So the by default of table structure, how we make our tables are like IDs are the primary key generally. Obviously you can change this, but if you want to use this, it will be there. The second is timestamp. So Laravel comes up with this functionality where every table consists of created at and updated at column. You can obviously change it, but it comes by default. Let's see if we want to go with the default as well. Right now, let's say I want to store a name in a context table. So for adding any column, what we'll do, we'll use a type of string. So I want to use a varchar, so I'll give it as a string and name is as a name. So what it does, it actually add a column of name inside a contact table. let's say we want to add another column, which is again a type of a string, and name it as a mobile number. So these are the two columns. The next column type we can take is status. So status we can take boolean, either true or false. So we can take as a status. Alright, so we have added name, mobile number and the status. To add any other type, you can use any of this column type and you can add a column in our table. So this is how the structure of the migration is. The next thing which I am going to tell you about, how you can run a migration and roll back the migration. To run a migration, as we already generated, I have to run a command php artisan migrate. As soon as I run this command, what it does, it actually checks in the migrations table which of the migration is not migrated. It will migrate only those files. Let's say if I run this, you see only this contacts table is migrated. Let's go into our database. You see there is no contacts table earlier, but when I refresh it, you can see this migration and contacts table is there. So we have put our ID, name, mobile number, status, created ad and updated ad. Let's see if the down function is working or not. To roll back, we need to run a command, and the command is php artisan migrate rollback. As soon as you hit this command, what it does, it actually roll back the last migration which it does. So how the migration will work, migration actually run in the batch. For example, if I have created 3 migration files at the same time and run the migration, so what it does, it actually migrate all those 3 files and give it a batch. Let's understand it better by going in migrations table. If you see the data, so migration table consists of the name of the migration file and the batch. Batch is actually, it's a kind of version. For example, I have migrated it first time, and again if I write 3 files and migrate it, so all those 3 files will come on the batch 2. So when we use this rollback, it by default what it does, it actually roll back the latest batch. Whatever the latest batch is, it will roll back only those. But for example, if we have to roll back till last 3 steps, right? So what we can pass here in the rollback, we can pass a step as well. So it will roll back till the 3 step back. The next thing which we need to cover is adding or updating any columns in database. So let's go into our code. First, I'll run php artisan migrate. So it migrates the table, and now we'll have this one more migration file and the batch is 2. The first thing I want to do is update the name column to full name. So what we can do, we actually write a migration for this and rename the column. For renaming a column, according to the Laravel documentation, what we need actually for modifying any of the column, we require this package dbel library. So what I can do, I can copy this, paste it here. Alright, so we already included this library. For updating any column, what we need to do now, always try to write a migration in a very descriptive way, like php artisan make migration, and I want to update name column in contacts table. So I have just written a whole statement here. What it do, when I hit the command, it actually creates another migration file, and if you see, we already have this contacts table because Laravel actually auto read this name of your migration, and from there it actually picks this. You want to update anything in contacts table, so it given the contacts table. I just want to rename the name to full name. To rename a column, what we can do, we have this table, and then we have a function rename column, and I want to rename it from name to full name. And in the down function, we need to write the exactly reverse, from full name to name. Let's save it. As soon as I run this command, php artisan migrate, you'll see it actually executed this command. Let's go into the database. You see there is a third batch of migration run. If I go this contacts, you'll see the structure. We have now full name. The next thing I want to do is I want to give a default value on a mobile number which is null. I want to make this field mobile number nullable. So what I can do, I can write a migration again. So basically the concept is like whatever you want to do with the table, you don't have to go into the MySQL and update the column and everything. You just need to do everything with the migration. And every time you need to do a new thing, you have to create a new migration file, and with that it will modify your tables. So what you can do, basically php artisan make migration, and I'll name it update mobile column in contacts table. So it created a new file. What we want to do, we want to change the mobile number to a null field. So we'll take the same name of the column and then we'll call it nullable and then pass it as a change. And in drop column we need to do exactly reverse. We don't have to give this nullable, but it actually a normal string field which is required. So let's go and run this migration. As this run our migration, let's refresh this. Now if you see this mobile number is nullable, it's saying yes. So this field becomes unnullable, right? So we have already see how we can change the column type, change column name, change the column default value. So we have pretty much everything which we want to change with a column. The next thing I'll explain you about the column modifiers. So let's go in our Laravel documentation and see what column modifier we'll have. So if you see in the column modifier, what it actually is, it actually make the column somewhat we need to, for example, we have to give a column and by default nullable, or for example we want to add a comment for a column, we make like we have to assign unsigned, right? We to give it as a default timestamp. So all these column modifier are actually available in our migration file. So the number of column modifier are available in this Laravel documentation. You will see inside this column modifier. Let's see, we want to use some of them. For the status column, I want to give it a default 1. Default value of this column should be 1. For that, again, I need to run a command which I'll say php artisan make migration update status column in contacts table. So what it does, it actually generates a migration file. You'll see this has the contacts. The next thing what we need to do is table boolean status, and I'll call it default 1 and change it, right? Let's copy the same thing and put it here. I don't want any default, and in a down function. Let's go ahead and migrate let's run the migration. If I go this, now if you see this status column, it has a default value of 1. So by this we can add the column modifier in our migration and use it. The very next thing is the indexing. As we all know, the database indexes are very important for us to create while creating any of the database. So let's understand how we can create index and rename it, and in any case we need to drop that index as well. Let's see how we can create the index. So there are plenty of methods available for indexes like primary index, unique index, normal index, full text index, right? So these are the index available in migration. For example, I want to index a mobile number in our table, right? What I'll do, again I'll create a migration file and give it a mobile number, and let's open the migration. And what I'll do, I'll add a simple index here and name it as a mobile number. In down function will drop this index. So we have a function of drop index, and I have to rename it as mobile number. So what it does actually, when we run the migrate, it will add an index, and when we roll back, it actually remove this index. Let's run the migration. Go into our database. Right now, if you see this index, we only have a primary index on the ID column. Let's refresh this. You see we have another index which is on a mobile number. So this is how we can add an index in our table for any column. For renaming any index, it's very simple. We have this available method rename index where we have to pass from and to. It actually rename this index. And for dropping any of the index, we have plenty of methods available. To drop a primary key, we have drop primary. To drop a unique key, we have a drop unique. And to drop any normal index, we have drop index. So we have these available indexes which we can use. So we have available method to add an index, rename an index, drop an index. So by these all three, we can add, rename and drop indexes in Laravel migration. Let's see the foreign key constraint. As we all know, the foreign key is the most important part of our database structure. So whenever we add a foreign key constraint, we can easily relate a database table to another table with this foreign key constraint. So let's add in our contacts table a user ID, as we already have this users table available. So let's add a constraint here in the contacts table for user ID as a foreign key. Let's go and create a migration for this. In a migration, the very next thing which we have to give here, so we'll name it a foreign ID. We'll name this column as user ID. The next thing which we want to give it a constraint, and in the constraint we can pass this table users, and we'll use this function cascade on update as well as cascade on delete, right? And in down function, what we have to actually do here, we need to drop this constraint foreign ID, and the column name would be user ID, right? Let's save it, migrate this. As soon as you migrate this, let's go in our database table, refresh it. Alright, as you see, we have this user ID, and if you notice this foreign key constraint, we have a user ID, as well as here a new index for the foreign key has been added, which is user ID, and it is referring to users table of ID. You see this, users of ID. So I think we have covered everything which we want to cover in our migration. So the very basic things we have covered. There are a lot of things to explore. You can always go to this documentation given by Laravel and you can explore all the parts given here on the migration. I hope this video is informative for you. We have seen all the parts of migration, starting from creating a migration, creating a database, adding a column, renaming it, changing the column type, adding a column modifier, indexes, and then foreign key constraints. So we have covered the very basic structure of the Laravel migration and how we can manage our database using the migration. I hope this video is informative for you. If you found this video informative, please do like this video, subscribe our channel to get more videos on Laravel. Till the next video, keep watching.